If you're going to rise in with a new global economy that's cashless, you got to get rid of the current one. Again, the Great Reset is really the AntiChrist kingdom. Common sense, they just relabel. Their masters is what I call relabeling. You can't say, hey, we're building the infrastructure for the AntiChrist kingdom. No, that's a little too obvious, Doug. So they relabel it. It's the Great Reset, Joni. That's all it is. We're going to reset the planet into a what? One world government, one world economy, cashless society, biometrically tied in, and a one world religion. That's all it is. His part is there's two sides to the Great Reset coin, I call it. The first one, most people are starting to catch on, praise God, including Christians, is an economic reset. And that's why Biden was brought in to destroy the dollar, because the dollar has to go because it's the backbone of the global economy. But they don't realize, and this is where Harari comes in, there's a second agenda just as important, just as much promoted.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains?
The World Economic Forum under Klaus Schwab has its own military, paramilitary police force.
Imagine a faceless government bureaucrat having the ability to not just monitor your finances, but approve or cancel any transaction. That's what would happen with the central bank digital currency, or CBDC.
What happens if someone ultimately does get a Neuralink installed? What will take place?
So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there that has a battery and a Bluetooth and an inductive charger. Insert the electrodes, so the electrodes are very carefully inserted, avoiding any veins or arteries. You stitch up the hole and you just have a little scar, and that's it. And you wouldn't even know that somebody has it. It could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain. You could also save state. And
save state?
Save state, like save your brain state, like a saved game in a video game.
Whoa.
And restore that state into a biological being if you wanted to in the future. In principle, there's nothing from a physics standpoint that prevents us. Now, you'd be a little different, but then you're also a little different when you wake up in the morning from yesterday.
They've already made the solution. They've already developed what they want to be the new financial governance system after this new Bretton Woods moment. They just need some sort of big event on the scale of World War II or some large event that's equally disruptive in order to be like, all right, now it's time for a new financial governance system after this big event like they did after World War II.
Think of each one of us. We're all under surveillance, not just by governments, but by corporations who are trying to do something. And it may not be anything nefarious. So 80 different companies are trying to sell you something, or 80 different companies are trying to get your data for some reason. And so they have AI and software bots that track you and follow you and learn from you and try and influence what you do, because they're trying to extract some kind of value from you. When you go to an all digital system, then there's no escape. And then they can start literally to enforce rules. They do now. So
what are the manifestations of this that maybe we're not paying attention to or don't perceive for what they are?
So look at what they did to the Canadian truckers. We don't like what you're doing. We cut off your money, and we cut off your friends' money. And if people help you, we cut off their money too. So I've known so many different people around the country who've been debanked. We just got legislation passed in Tennessee that a bank over a certain size couldn't debank someone for political or religious reasons.
You don't even, I guess what bothers me about it, there's something wonderfully straightforward, horrifying, but wonderfully straightforward about just a conventional invasion where people show up with guns and tell you what to do, because at least you know who the enemy is. But there's something very scary in an insidious way about being lulled into slavery.
Right. And the thing to understand about the lulling is the marketing plan works one person at a time. In other words, you I buy with money, your friend I buy by knocking them off, for the other, your other friend I get a control file on. So there are thousands of different ways of nudging, buying carrots and sticks to get everybody into the control, into the trap. And what is so insidious about this is much of the marketing plan is invisible, and it really is crafted one by one.
How far are we from not being able to exercise constitutional freedoms?
So I don't know how many years they're clearly pushing to have this done by 2030.
In this context, I think the digital ID is a key enabler of the surveillance, knowing what everyone is doing at the transactional level and being able to tweak that micromanagement based on a person's activity, because the digital ID isn't just limited to the financial system, right? It's like your travel, your health history, your career history, your education credentials, your access to telecommunications, social media, the internet. You know, with the new AI era, right, they can fuse all that data, analyze it, you know, and depending on how they develop that AI algorithm, use it to control people really in unprecedented ways. I think the digital ID and the CBDC and its private sector equivalence project is something that we're always sort of intended to be the same system. So there's documents from the UN, from the BIS, and related groups that are sort of that have been working on this for years, that essentially frame one as essential to the other, using words about, you know, this is inclusionary, sort of, you know, the whole, I guess, marketing behind digital ID is that everyone needs legal ID because otherwise they're unable to access essential services, right? They have essentially said that this is the only way, this will be the only way to prove you have legal identity. And so if you don't participate in that system, as far as the state or the, you know, the private sector is concerned, you don't exist. So by not participating in that system, you're inherently excluded from the economic system and really essentially everything.
The Chinese last month unveiled the world's first digital currency from a major power. Currency that would not be printed but would exist only in cyberspace on your phone, for example. Is the Fed working on a digital dollar?
We are actually evaluating that. Most major countries are now looking at the possibility of having a digital currency and really asking the question.
Imagine a government that creates money that has an expiration date, and if you don't use it, it'll disappear. That's happening already with the digital yuan, and Americans are rightfully skeptical.
President Biden issued an executive order to explore the creation of a U.S. central bank digital currency, effectively converting the dollar into a centralized digital currency.
That's what would happen with the central bank digital currency, or CBDC. It's essentially a government-run cryptocurrency, and like most government-run things, it's pretty terrible. It allows the government to not only see how you are earning, spending, and even donating all your money, but because all transactions have to go through the government has the ability to approve or decline anything. So if you want to donate money to an institution like the Heritage Foundation, the government can tell you no. If you want to buy firearms, the government can tell you, sorry, you have enough of those. We already have a problem in this country with people getting canceled for perfectly legal activities. The last thing we want is for the government to have more control, more power, and the ability to veto constitutional activity. If you want to protect not just your financial freedom, but your financial privacy too, then CBDCs need to be banned in all forms.